Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us here. It's really great to be here. We are so excited right now to be presenting with you with an awesome panel. My name is Josh Decker, the founder and CEO of Tagboard. Several of my team members are here. And today we have a really great panel with some awesome people elevating the moment, social storytelling in real time. Obviously here at the Real Time Summit, that's a pretty great topic to be talking about. In fact, today we're ahead of schedule, so we're ahead of real time. So today I'd like to invite the rest of the panelists to the stage.
Hi, everyone.
All right.
I'm back.
All right, so I've got some great people here. To my left, she was so good that she's back on stage again. Lyndsay Signor from NBC Sports. And to her left, we have Tina, Lloyd from the Golf Channel, and then all to the other end there, David Brickley from STN Digital. And so these guys always work together from part of the NBC Universal family. Tagboard has had the opportunity to work with many of these organizations. And what we're going to do now is just take a moment to introduce each of them to you. And I'll have a fancy little clicker to do that.
Oh, cool. Oh, shit, I keep doing that.
All right, so we got Tina here, and I think we have a really great, you want to talk a little bit, and then we'll play your sizzle
Hi,
reel?
everyone.
Talk.
So, I used to oversee social media on the Golf Channel, and now I've moved over to Golf Now, which is part of one of our emerging businesses. So I oversee content strategy for all of our direct-to-consumer products and services.
Awesome.
You know, step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything. I don't need to fight to prove I'm right.
People always told me, be careful what you do. Don't go around breaking young girls' hearts.
My hands on myself. Pick out dust them off, put them back up on the shelf. Kiss my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it.
Oh, he's got it, and that's it, and that settles it. And Nicholas wins the Open.
It's 1986 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Got another mouth to feed. Leave it with the babies till the mama call a grave digger. Gone with the falling leaves. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might have had your fill, but I feel it still.
Oh, we did it!
Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over now, feel it still. I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Over now, I feel it still. Might have had your fill, I feel it still.
Yeah, I'm David Brickley, owner, CEO of STN Digital. We are a social media marketing company based out of San Diego. One of our first clients 5 years ago when we started the company was March Madness, so 16 games in one day type deal. So I think we kind of cut our niche in the real-time market, so this is a perfect conference for us to be at.
Because my life is dope, and I do dope shit.
Americans can change the world.
That shit crack.
Drop.
We know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
Side question, how much do you charge to make people personal sizzle reels?
I got
Because
you,
I
man.
would really like
got
to
you.
have you make one for me, because that was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we got the next one here.
Guys, I'm back.
Run it back.
I think we know each other by now.
Yeah.
You know, I have a kid and an old dog. I guess one thing just additionally is in terms of the marketing side of my role, which I didn't get into too much, mostly the social, is what that means. Consumer engagement is really about how you can speak to consumers across every sport. So my group is responsible for working with the affiliates, with paid strategy, with digital email marketing, social, in market with our league partners like NASCAR, NFL. So that's really one thing I guess I didn't touch on that I could add. And enjoy the sizzle reel because it's exactly the same.
And away we go. He's just immortal! Justify as the Triple Crown winner! Manchester City are Premier League champions. Here come the Irish.
Tour Championship winner, Tiger Woods.
Scott Dixon is a 5-time IndyCar champion.
Geraint Thomas has won the Tour de France.
This has been her destiny all along.
King lives. Mark Truex Jr. is the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champion. The Washington Capitals are the Stanley Cup champions. Caught. Foles touchdown.
One more hit, will it be enough? Shaun White takes the goal.
You just can't get enough of this stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
I'm
cool.
gonna-
We're seeing twice, I think,
I'm gonna give
right?
David a run for his money because we're really good at sizzle reels, but
Yeah.
his was actually pretty good.
Mine was good, but not that good. So you can just imagine in your head
It might
what
be
it
here.
looked like.
We might have it. It might be in the slide here. Let's see what we got. No, okay, cool. All right, so definitely want to talk to you guys just a little bit today about some of the examples that we brought to you today. So we're going to play an example, and then we're going to just talk about it.
Action. I'm Adam Rippon, and these are Ripp's Quips. Life is like a box of diamonds. When life gives you lemons, don't. Looks can be important. Sometimes I can't even take myself seriously. With great power comes great money. It ain't over till it's over. Forever. Who runs the world? Me. That's why her hair's so big. It's full of dandruff. If you're a bird, I'm a cat. Keep calm and Adam Rippon.
So you want to talk a little bit about that one and kind of just the thoughts behind it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what Lyndsay talked about a little bit earlier, but their planning at NBC is, you know, paramount, I think. We were talking about this for, I don't know, 4 months. Not this particular video, but I think just making sure we were prepping and producing. And we knew we had a social media lounge in South Korea. We were going to have access to gold medalists, you know, shortly after they won. So what can we do? What can we queue up? and we knew Adam Rippon was potentially going to win gold. And when he did, being able to create custom content and have these individual franchises live on social in that real-time environment. You saw the schedule, people cutting this content like at 4 in the morning back in the States. It was really cool to kind of see this come to life during the Olympics.
Yeah, and I think before we had someone from David's team from STN with us in South Korea, and then back in San Diego cutting stuff. So for us, the time change was really interesting. We had a lot of time during the day with no coverage on. So it gave us the opportunity to actually produce things a little bit more high-end like this that we could create and then roll out the next time you would see Adam competing, which was kind of the point. And he was a gem. Like I think we kind of knew going into the Olympics and then realized he was one of our favorite parts of the Olympics at the end of it.
And one of the largest questions we get asked is how do we capitalize on our talent with a limited amount of time? So these guys, I think, 10 minutes, but usually for award shows we have 30 seconds. So what's something very, very cool we can do that works on social that maybe the talent would like to share as well? How can we get them to do that? And it's just a lot of planning and prep to get that done.
Well, we obviously enjoyed it from watching it back here in the States, and I think from a fan, we all love sports, but we like the athletes better, I think, because those are the people that we get endeared with, and we're rooting for the individuals more than the sport, and in most of the cases, and this was a great case of that. So now, next we got a Sunday Night Football example.
This is also a collab with STN.
Awesome.
Look, we've seen young QBs put up numbers before, but Sunday night, we get to see the one putting up video game numbers. I'm talking record-breaking, off-the-charts, he's on fire numbers. But if anybody's gonna keep pace with his flamethrower, it's gonna be him. All eyes on the Game Breakers. All eyes on Sunday Night Football.
That's really a great one. My favorite team is the Seahawks, 'cause I'm from Seattle. My second favorite team is whoever's playing the Patriots. Yeah. So we're rooting for the.
Yeah, I think this is actually for television. This was not created for social. This is shameless plug. This is this weekend Sunday Night Football game. You should all watch. But honestly, after yesterday's game slate, this is a pretty crazy kind of the veteran versus the rookie, and the rookie literally plays like he's a backup who's going to lose his job at any moment. And so we went to STN because he's young and he is putting up video game numbers, and so what can we do to make this a little bit more youthful? But this is for TV that we'll put out socially, but wasn't meant just as a social thing, which I think is pretty cool.
Do you guys often find, maybe accidentally, that while that clip what we made for social, that's actually worth a 30-second spot? Or is it the other way around usually, or how does that usually happen?
I think we're getting there. I think it kind of depends on what we're working with in terms of the matchup. Like last night's matchup, the Texans and the Cowboys record's not great. So saying like this is going to be the biggest game of the weekend when they're 1-2, I think is not particularly authentic. But we did have this sort of bigger in Texas showdown kind of vibe that ended up that look and feel worked really well on social. But what we're trying to get away from is, you know, the 30-second spot that's a lot of hits and action and really good music. Like when people don't listen to this stuff with audio on social, it doesn't really work. And so that's what we're trying to customize this stuff. And the Ravens one I showed earlier, this one, and the one from last night were all actually designed for social that they like so much that they would put on air. So I think we're getting there.
Cool. You guys get a bonus when they do that?
No.
We actually and I don't know if there's any of the examples in here, but when we partnered up with David's team for a show we had on Golf Channel called Shotmakers, we actually ended up using a lot of the stuff that his team had produced for us socially actually in the program and in the show because they liked it so much. So we definitely took kudos for that. Take them when you can get them.
That's awesome. Well, next up, we got some Snapchat examples from the Golf Channel. It's something that Tagboard was able to work with them on, and so I'll let this play, and we'll talk about it.
folks, we hope you follow Golf Channel on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but don't forget Snapchat. We've been Snapchatting like crazy from the 64th PGA Merchandise Show. Behind the scenes, log in, follow us, feel like an insider, and keep it going strong all year long. Morning Drive, back after this, I promise you.
So yeah, that's a really fun one. Tagboard has had the honor to work with Snapchat for a couple years now as one of their exclusive display partners, and partnered with them to bring Snapchat content to partners like the Golf Channel and other properties out there. And for us, it was a way for, there's this really unique, Snapchat is what it is. Like, they're obviously, they're surviving through some storms. They're definitely, they reach a younger audience. I mean, I was just at a NBA game in Seattle, a preseason game for the Warriors, and I'm looking around the stands, and everyone who is younger than me, which is most people there, but the people in my group, or in the area that I was in, it was just like everyone, all they were doing the whole time was on Snapchat. And it's just really interesting because it gets kind of dogged in the media and the press quite a bit, but it's still there, and they still have a lot of users, and it's still very relevant content. And also, you know, let's talk about Snapchat being a camera company. There's an easy way to get backstage or unique content using the Snapchat camera right to display or right to broadcast. And so we partnered with the Golf Channel. So I'll let you talk a little bit about how that worked out.
Yeah, so I believe that was actually one of the first times we brought Snapchat on air. Also, we followed the spring break of Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas behind the scenes that we pulled in on Morning Drive too. I think the thing is, our viewer is typically not a Snapchat user. They're 65 plus, but it just shows a different perspective of what people are watching during the actual programming. So giving them that behind the scenes, unparalleled access to what they can't see on linear, I think is super important, and being able to do it easy and quick and not having to have a graphics operator or a whole team creating and pulling this content, and just being able to earmark which snaps we want to bring in. It makes it really easy, and we just love to give our fans that kind of behind the scenes look on what's happening around, whether it is Snapchat or Instagram stories, or even just pulling in tweets from our fans. I think bringing in the fans and giving them kind of that different point of view is really important to us in our programming.
Really, really awesome. I know when we first saw it, we have a couple TVs in our office, and we usually have NFL Network or Golf Channel or some of our clients that use it. And I remember the first time you guys put Snapchat on, it was like people screaming, everybody, we all ran to the TVs, and it's pretty fun now.
Because it's one thing to see it like in a Jumbotron when you're actually at a live event, that makes a lot of sense, but when you see it on a TV show, you're like, oh, that's pretty neat. And you know, it did help us. We didn't like double our following on Snapchat, but we did see a little spike in follower growth when we did integrate during that time. So.
Well, it was really cool too how you brought in the content from the players themselves, and there was some really unique. There's one, I think it was Jordan Spieth running down the fairway wearing a swimsuit, and that was basically it. Like
the Spring Break Boys. If you guys haven't checked them out, they haven't gone on a trip this year, but yeah, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, and Smiley Kaufman, and we were following all of their Snapchats, and we reached out to Tagboard, and we were like, how can we do this? How can we bring it in? And sure enough, we did. So.
Yep. All right, and next up we got something over the Shotmakers here, and we'll play.
My dream foursome would definitely be Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Mike Trico there commentating the whole thing with my stepdad and Mike Bag.
Me, my son, and any 2 grandchildren that I have.
My dad, I would bring Phil Mickelson, and I'd probably want to bring Bobby Jones.
Justin Timberlake, Jimmy Fallon, and Chad Pfeiffer.
Me, Julius Erving, George Gervin, Artis Gilmore.
Justin Timberlake, Michael Jordan, and Tiger.
My dream foursome is me, my dad, Arnold Palmer, and Natalie Goldfuss.
Bruno Mars, Beyonce, and Tiger Woods.
My brother's my father.
My dad, my 2 brothers.
President Bush, 43, Arnold Palmer, Will Ferrell.
My dream foursome would be me, my dad, my papa, and Ricky Fowler.
That's pretty awesome. Do you have a dream foursome?
I haven't been asked that in a long time. I would definitely say my husband, Tiger Woods, and probably Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. I like somebody had Will Ferrell join them, because at least if you're going to have a bad swing, he can make fun of you and you laugh the whole time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so that was Shotmakers. We partnered up with STN. That was probably one of the coolest experiences that I had in my career, from actually having a full-on production crew. Normally, I'm sure Lyndsay can attest to this, we're a very lean team and having to shoot off of our phones and trying to figure out stuff on the fly. But we had David and his team, who's actually here today, all on site, and we were able to do a lot of these green screen. We did GIFs, we did these take-a-swings, and this was actually part that we brought into, our executive vice producer, Molly Solomon, saw it, and she was like, we have to get this in the show. So it was one of the pieces that we did.
And they did a pretty cool thing. They brought a lot of Instagram influencers actually to compete during the show. So I think a big thing was, how do we leverage their audience and how do we give them content that they can share out just to, increase that distribution. So trying to find fun ways on social specifically to be able to pass on to the participants was cool.
Definitely.
Very, very cool, guys. Well, we're gonna switch over to a Q&A, and I have some questions for you guys, and we'll go through them and hopefully dig a little deeper here. What is the most compelling way to use social media to tell stories in real time? We're here at the Real Time Summit, and so what type of content do you like to incorporate when you're thinking in the terms of using it in real time?
I'll start. So for me, I think there's a couple different forms of real time. I think if you have the opportunity and you have the rights, whether you're in sports, to give your fans that behind the scenes kind of pre-game, pre-tournament feel, I think really kind of hypes them up. Lyndsay's team's been doing some really good stuff on Instagram for Sunday Night Football. I think getting people excited and hopefully driving them to tune in or stream and giving them that behind the scenes access is important. I think also telling a compelling story in real time, I think you mentioned this in your presentation, but it's being prepared. Like, somebody's going to win a golf tournament, somebody's going to win the football game, so having those templates ready. So whether you're in sports or you're doing church events or whatever it is, if you kind of already have these templates pre-created for your event, I think it just helps to alleviate a lot of last minute stress, because in real time, things can get kind of crazy, especially with sports, that you're gonna do the play-by-play stuff, but it's having those other things ready so that when somebody does win or something does come to its final conclusion, that you have that.
Lyndsay, can I ask you about the Olympics? Yeah. Because that was, you may have already been going there, but for us back in the States, we never knew what was real time and what was not. And so what was there I guess you guys had a policy in place for tweeting spoilers and those type of things. How did you deal with that, the time change?
Yeah, so we operate as sort of on the social front as things are happening. I think what was cool was we did have this window of time where nothing was going on. And prime time actually started, this was the first all live primetime show. So it was different in that historically, even for Rio, we were on the air all day long. So there was all this stuff going on. We had to cover it in real time. To Tina's point, we actually got called out by somebody last night with an STN graphic because the who won last night? The Texans? Yeah. I did watch it, you guys. We had a win graphic go out, and we had two of them. So we had one for the Cowboys, one for the Texans. One was never going to see the light of day. We had some guy in our comments be like, that was really quick. I assume you guys have another one just in case. And I'm like, dude, get out of our business. Yes. But basically, the cool thing about Pyeongchang that was a challenge that we turned into an opportunity was we had nothing going on during the day. All we were going to do was pump what was going on in prime. And so that was great because with the Olympics, you can definitely have an oversaturation of content during the day. For summer, we're covering archery and all this cool stuff. But you may be over it by the time you get to prime time, to be honest. And so for us, we're not, saving stuff as if people don't know what's happening. But I will say, if there's something that is going to show up again on tape, like one really good example, in the middle of the night, curling, hockey games were going on, and there's a pretty good chance people at 4 o'clock on the East Coast didn't watch it live. So we would cover it, we'd have a lot of fun, but then we'd create unique content for that kind of morning commute time, as in case you missed it, so that when a larger amount of people were actually on and catching up, they got unique stuff versus like, we already covered this, we're not gonna go back to it again. So it was actually kind of a unique opportunity with nothing during the day. And I think the next couple of Olympics will be in Tokyo and then Beijing. So we'll have the same kind of turnaround time that was like a good practice round for us, I think.
Yeah, and we follow the same mentality with, making our big events bigger. So Ryder Cup and the Open, we own the rights to. So we actually partnered up this year with STN and our social team in-house to do kind of like a while you were sleeping. And that was a way to catch up people who were not waking up at 1 a.m. on the East Coast to actually watch the coverage. But hey, in the next minute, you're gonna get brought up to speed on what you might have missed. So it's the overnight hours are tough, and tape delays are definitely tough for us too.
Yeah, we don't sleep, so
yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, we appreciate it because you guys are great, awesome content, and we don't have to stay up if we don't need to. So, let's talk to each of you about maybe like one campaign that you've been a part of that was a real-time campaign that you can just stands out in your mind as an example of, maybe something unique or something that just really worked in the right way. If you can think of something.
We work with the Turner on the SAG Awards every single year, and last year we had 24 people on the ground just for social. So activations on the red carpet, backstage, we had iPhone roamers, motion graphics, photographers, videographers, everything was going to social. I think we posted like 750 pieces of content in a 4-hour period. And #1 in Nielsen ratings, which is awesome. But I think to see that, I started the company 5 years ago, to see them spend the budget for 23 people on the ground is crazy. It's rivaling a lot of the television productions you see now. They know the eyeballs are there. Maybe more people are watching on Instagram than they are on the linear feed. So I'm starting to see from the agency side more budget going that way. So that's probably the one thing that sticks out for me.
For me, it's probably I was just talking with David about this, probably one of the highlights of my career, but probably the lowlights of this one person's. We're in the final 2 holes of NCAA men's golf championships, and the Tiger Woods DUI footage had just started to be ingested into our feed, and we saw that TMZ was starting to stream it live. And our executive vice president, Molly, turns to me and she goes, what can we do on social? And I was like, let's do a Facebook Live. So that we had only just tested the API and pulling in like broadcast cameras. So I was like literally shaking. And I was like, oh my God, please don't screw up. Because tech, that's one thing I will say is tech is always gonna fail you. So have like 3 different plans when you're in social. And have every MiFi network that you can get and have your own dedicated Wi-Fi. But that being said, we had Rich Lerner, who's one of our main hosts for Golf Central, and he does a lot of the live froms as a host. He broke the news of Tiger Woods' DUI, and obviously now, 3 weeks ago, Tiger winning the Tour Championship, I can now say I feel a little bit better about myself, but we all stood there in the control room because we hadn't seen the footage yet, and it's on Facebook, and you see Tiger staggering down, US 1, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy who was at the top of his career like 5-6 years ago, like he may never come back. And then to see him be overcome with emotion on the 18th hole of the Tour Championship at East Lake a few weeks ago, like I definitely was crying. And my husband's like, are you crying? And I'm like, I'm not crying, you're crying. But yeah, it was a highlight of my career because I was like, oh my gosh, like we're actually gonna break news on social media, and we've never done this before, but it's Tiger Woods DUI. Like, you want it to be something a little bit more joyous, but that to me was a true real-time situation where we had to react so we could at least still be the authentic news company that we are with golf.
David meant to say the Olympics, but I think he slipped up and said the SAG Awards. That was weird. I would be lying if I didn't say the Olympics, because it really is like, it's crazy, but I will not go back to that because I've mentioned it every chance I get. I would say the Kentucky Derby 2 years ago, It's a really fun event. It's actually one of the only events other than the Olympics that's more female on broadcast, and it's actually reflected on social as well. But 2 years ago, first of all, it's not a sporting event. It's about drinking, it's about betting, it's about fashion, it's
hats.
Hats. It's about all of those things, very drunk by the end of the day, and you never see that on television, but it's super fun, really great event. But we have the opportunity on the sports side to like dabble in pop culture more so than we normally would, or talk about, trends and things like that. And so 2 derbies ago, I think, we launched a tweet-powered brooch on Johnny Weir. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was the coolest thing. So basically Johnny Weir, who is on our Olympic coverage, really great, wonderful person, a lot of character, really into fashion. He and Tara Lipinski hosted the fashion segments on the Derby. And he also has historically now gotten some crazy hats and things. And this year, he had this crown that had this like long pink ponytail coming out of it. And I was like, there's gotta be, Johnny is like the epitome of social media conversation. And so I was like, there's gotta be something we can do with this. So we work with Johnny's stylist team, there was a bunch of them, to design this little white horse that when people tweeted #WatchMeNeNe, like the horse neigh, it would actually move and light up and do all this stuff. And you would see it happening live on television, but the horse itself had like a long pink ponytail. So it was all, aesthetically pleasing to Johnny, and it matched his outfit and everything. But that to me was so nuts. Like in my presentation, when I talked about like take a swing, don't like think too much about the strategy. For us, what was cool is we actually could tie. The only way for you to really do this was when you were prompted on television to use the hashtag. Then people would use the hashtag, and then you would see his horse light up and run on this brooch. So nuts, but it really was one of those moments where you're like, the Derby's a very iconic old thing. I think it's like 145 years old or something. And it can be very like, very white and old people. And this to me with Johnny and the social integration I thought was just really cool. I don't know how we would ever do that again in any other sport with anyone else. But aside from the Olympics, that to me was like a very cool moment of like tying broadcast back to social and then see it do its thing on TV.
That sounds pretty exciting. How many people are actually looking up that video right now? That's pretty interesting. Definitely look that up. So I think last question, and we need to keep moving on so that we can enjoy the rest of the day. But so let's talk about like what's next, okay? So obviously we've kind of been through the social media landscape, shifting and changing and all kinds of new stuff, vertical video, and you could live stream to everything at all times now. What's next? Like, do you guys have any insight or any excitement or maybe hope about what the next thing is, or the next shift that might adjust or change our digital strategies would be?
I think the fact that these social media networks are going to be monetizable. Already sponsorship is starting to move that way, but I really think once the Fortune 500 start spending more money on these different platforms, it's going to increase budget, increase resources. So I think right now there's still NFL teams out there with one, mighty social media manager that's a one-man band. And I think as we look 5, 6, 7 years down the road, there may be a team of 17 at an NFL team because it's so important to their brand, and that's the main way they connect with their fans. So I think that'll be the big difference when the budgets move over from the sponsorship, in my opinion.
To kind of echo on what he said, I believe that yes, monetizing social is going to really kind of take a forefront. I also think that, and I've said this before, but social media to me, I've started out as a digital marketer. I feel like it really is like a content consumption platform, and it's going to be more and more programmed. But I really think that you're going to start to see a lot of more VR, AR, and just my kids, they play Fortnite and they watch this guy Ninja, and I think that like the esports world is going to really, it's already huge, but I just think we're going to see more and more of that, and trying to figure out how you can fit into that whole, that noise, that crazy noise that's out there, so.
And I think just to add to Tina's, and then I have my own, it's also for us in television, figuring out how to get Tina's kids to watch television, and that may not be possible because a lot of them are never going to have a cable subscription anyway, but how do we put content in front of them now to get them to where we need them to go, whether it's a stream or whatever in the future, I think is important. I think what I'm interested to see is the evolution of social rights in sports. See it a little bit with the NFL, giving digital rights to Amazon and Twitter. But a lot of these deals are done, 10 years at a time, and kind of what you can do on social isn't defined. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how important that is to broadcasters when they write these checks. Are they separated out to another partner that would just do the social rights and the broadcasters don't have them? Right now it's different with every league. So I think that can make or break the content that you can do. I mean, people rip off content all the time now, which is super frustrating for a broadcaster. But it is, eventually when they start to redo the deals and stuff, like, is that going to be an additional amount of money that broadcasters are paying? Are they siphoning it off? I think that'll be really interesting to watch.
Well, you guys, like for Sunday Night Football, you can't post highlights on social.
Correct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We have limited rights based on our deal with the league, and it's not part of our actual written deal. So there are things we can do, but we're sort of sharing highlights. We're cross-posting on Facebook. We're using the league's link on a Twitter highlight. So no, it's definitely limited. But on the flip side, it challenges us to not just rely on the highlight. Like, we have to make cool stuff. We can't rely on the highlight. And it helps us cut through because the teams, the league, the players, they're all using these same highlights that are available. So I think it challenges us to break through and make our own stuff, which I think is also cool. It would be great to have more rights, but for now, that's what we're working on.
That's like the #1 thing that everybody always says to me. Why don't you guys post more golf highlights? Well, PGA Tour owns those rights. We actually don't. But to her point, it's when you get more creative. Highlights, they always perform well for us, but definitely the pop culture fun stuff we did during the Open. We had The Office, and we superimposed their heads in After Effects. And with Tiger, and I think it was Jordan, and it's a funny scene. I can't name the whole scene, to be honest, but if you check out our Twitter and Facebook, it's on there. But yeah, that was like the top performing post of the week, not a highlight of Francesco Molinari. So you have to get creative when you don't have those rights.
Well, it's evident that you guys not only are passionate about what you do, but you guys give a damn about your teams and the work that you do, and it shows. So thank you for sharing your time with us, Lyndsay, Tina, and David. We've all enjoyed this time and appreciate being on the stage with you guys.
Thank you guys.